What's up, YouTube? I am the Vanilla Nerd, and today I want to talk about Netflix original film, The Sea Beast. Before I jump in, obligatory spoiler warning, there will be heavy spoilers for this movie, so if you haven't seen it, get out now while you can. Okay, so The Sea Beast. It's an animated film. It's about pirates and sea monsters and them working out their differences, which is just great. It was super fun to watch. I really liked this film, but unfortunately I do have a few issues with it. We'll get to those in a second. But firstly, what are some things that I liked? Well, the characters were fantastic. Jacob Holland, played by the great Carl Urban, was great. I really liked his piratey voice. I didn't even really hear Carl Urban in it very much, and I really liked how he was a great middle ground between the two extremes of Maisie and Captain Crow. You know, Captain Crow is this hardened and bittered captain who had his eye lost and a giant scar from the sea monsters, and is a third generation hunter who wants to kill all the sea monsters in the sea. And Maisie thinks that she wants to be just like that, but she actually has a lot more open mind, partially because she's young, and she sees the sea monsters for more than sea monsters, for intelligent beings, and she works hard to understand them, to study them, to care about them. And I really like that. And Jacob kind of fits right in the middle. He understands the monster hunting desire of Captain Crow, but he also understands keeping an open mind like Maisie. And in fact, every interaction Jacob has with the captain throughout the show is him choosing people over killing monsters. And it's just a really powerful character there, and I really like Jacob. But I also really like Maisie. I like how Maisie is determined to change the world, determined to be the best she can be. I mean, determination is like the epitaph of her character. She, at the very beginning, is determined to escape from her orphanage, even though this is clearly the third or the 30th attempt or something odd like that, and then she's determined to get on the ship and become a hunter right away at this age. And the captain is totally fine with this at first. He sees that fire, he sees that determination, but then she's determined to change the world. She's like, I now know that sea beasts are nice, and I'm not just going to sit by and let them die. I am going to stop this war. And I absolutely love at the end when Jacob's like, hey, good job helping save Red, and she's like, I'm not done yet. And then she exposes the corruption of the king and queen and gives an excellent speech, and then she's like, now I'm done. It was really powerful. Really liked her character. Really good job for the story. So everything was great there. But more than the characters, the setting was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I love pirates. This movie was just full to the brim with pirates, and the sea monsters were really fun. I really liked Red. She didn't exactly she didn't really remind me of any particular sea monster, but of a couple sea monsters in one. But they started out with a very classic, Kraken-esque sea monster in the Brickleback, I think was the name of it. But it had tentacles. It was taking people off the ship, very, very akin to the Kraken. And then they also had a giant crab, which was fun. They had a giant orange walrus, which was fun. It was really fun seeing all the creatures they came up with and stuff like that. I do have a gripe here, though, and that is that the humans were incredibly detailed. Jacob had a belt with multiple hanging things that they did physics simulations to show how they would bounce and bump. He had a scabbarded sword, which I don't know if you know, but that's incredibly hard to do in animation because that scabbard really just wants to go through the leg of whomever you're animating. And they managed to fit all of that in on Jacob. And that's just Jacob. They did similar things with all of the crew of The Inevitable, and with Maisie, and with just all these characters. They'd had incredible attention to detail when it came to the humans, and not just the human characters, but also their ship was detailed. All of that stuff was detailed. But then when it came to the sea monsters, they just went cartoonishly simple. Red is literally a big red sea monster. Very little color variation, very little texture variation. It's just big red blob. And they did the same thing with all the monsters. It was a big orange walrus looking thing. It was a big purple crab thing. Although the crab did have some nice color variation with the spikes and stuff and the barnacles. But even the crab, like, you could count the number of teeth it had as it was trying to eat Jacob. Like, I don't hate it. And on the second viewing, I just accepted it as, this is the style. This is the design choice. The humans are incredibly detailed, and the animals or the sea beasts are less detailed. And that's okay, but it is something that kind of bothered me. I wish the sea monsters were made to be a little more realistic looking to match the style of the humans. It's okay that it's not, but it did frustrate me a bit. But on this note of complaints, for lack of a better word, let's talk about what were my issues with this film. And then I'll end talking about what I liked about the plot of this film, so I can end on a good note as well as a good conclusion. So my biggest problem with this movie was that the final battle, the end confrontation, was kind of anticlimactic. Like, it was climactic in the sense that it brought all the characters' stories to a head and it changed the course of this fictional world, and that's all fine and good. But it was anticlimactic in that the battle and the action just wasn't that exciting. I mean, let's run through kind of what happens. Red comes into the bay, being towed by the inevitable and stuff. Captain Crow makes a big speech. Jacob, gets on top of Red and says, hey, I can't let you do that. Their kind of disagreements come to a head. They exchange a few blows. There's kind of a small, exciting sword fight, and then it's over. It's done. They're over with that. Maisie frees Red. Red kind of trying to get the poison out of her, wakes up and knocks over a few buildings. Then Red is going to eat Captain Crow. Jacob stops her. And then Maisie gives a big empowered speech and we go home. Like, that was it. And it was really disappointing because the beginning of this movie started out on such a high note. They had this awesome action scene against this kraken-like creature where Jacob saves 3 or 4 different people from the kraken in different ways and stuff. And then they have to kill the kraken, and there's a couple of really epic shots of them throwing some harpoons at them and Captain Crow going in for the kill and stuff. And it was just really, really exciting and really fun. And so I was expecting that if this is how the movie starts, then it's going to end even bigger, even epicer, even grander than how it began, and that wasn't the case. That action scene is probably the best of the entire movie. To be fair, when they first go after Red, that's a pretty cool action scene. That one was pretty fun. Also, the Red versus the Crab, that was pretty cool too. Pretty good, especially for like a middle battle. But like the end, it's just like Red fights the big galleon, the war galleon, with all the cannons on it, and that's kind of cool. She gets stabbed by a poison dart rocket thing. That was kind of cool, but like, again, they weren't very long, they weren't very exciting, it just happened. So I really wish they were able to end it with a more satisfying action scene. This is kind of the opposite problem of what the MCU has run into, where they'll have smaller scale movies with a big CGI action scene at the end for like no reason. And they're related problems in that this movie and the MCU movies, they don't match the style of story they're trying to tell. The MCU is telling a smaller scale story, and then they have a big action scene. This movie proved and demonstrated they could tell a larger, fun action scene, and then they didn't deliver at the end. And I'm just really disappointed by that. So, yeah, that really frustrates me, and I wanted to get that. But another problem I had with the ending was the resolution. Maisie gives a few lines of dialogue where she talks about how the Dregmore will no longer be explored, and the monsters can have that, and the humans will keep the land and seas that they've already taken. And it's just like, wait, that's the resolution? Like, segregation is bad. Saying the monsters stay here, humans stay there, and like not coexisting makes no sense to me. And like the fact that like humanity would choose just not to explore, to give up, is just baffling to me. I get that a lot of humans are like, hey, I don't want to keep sending people to die fighting these monsters and stuff, die a great death. But like, it still is confusing to me why they aren't, like, you know, exploring at least and stuff. And like, I'm just and like the with the resolution, like Jacob and Maisie end up on a farm, which was foreshadowed at the beginning, but I'm kind of like, how would they know how to farm? And like, okay, fine, they learn, sure, what else? But like, that still isn't very satisfying for me, especially after they both spent the entire movie building this bond and relationship with Red. Wouldn't they want to see their friend? Wouldn't they want to hang out with Red some more? Like, why are they just content to just be on a farm and ignore the open seas for the rest of their days? Like, I don't think that's very believable. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense and stuff. And on top of all this, like, that's all good and well for them. Yay, they get their family. They get to be on a farm together. But like, what about the rest of the hunters? Like, Maisie has a conversation with Sharp where she says, hey, you're the greatest first mate ever, the most loyal ever. You know that I'm telling the truth. Red is not a threat to us. And, you know, Commander Sharp says, yeah, I believe you, but if we're not hunters, what are we? It's a really ominous and foreboding question, but then it never gets answered. It never gets explored. And I'm just like, why the heck not? Like, and it would have been so easy to just say, from then on, humans and monsters worked hard to live, to coexist. And we, instead of trying to kill every monster in the Dregmore to explore it, we got to explore it alongside the monsters. And then you could have seen the rest of the crew in their ship being flanked by Red and another sea monster. Like, that would have been cool and really good and worked really well, but they didn't do any of that. I'm just, yeah, the resolution was really disappointing for this movie. Another issue I have with this movie is the idea that the sea beasts are actually genuinely nice people that wouldn't harm humans if humans just didn't bother them. And I feel like this is contradicted a couple of times throughout the film, you know? Because, like, notably, when Red sees the Imperator, like that big sea galleon with 1,000 cannons on it, she's like ready to just go and attack it. And if it's not for Jacob and Maisie, she's not going to stop. Now, you could say that's prejudice built up in her. She's got prejudice towards the humans because of the war and stuff, and so she's not willing to do that. And yay, the humans stopped her and proved that it could work and stuff. But it just still bothers me and stuff. And I do understand that, like, this random human dude shoots his musket at Red in a vain attempt to slow it down and stuff. But, like, yeah, I'm just confused why that whole scene was not well done in a way to make me think that, oh yeah, monsters are generally nice. It's like, no, this monster wanted to like kill that ship just immediately and stuff. But even if that one, that one's kind of shaky as to whether or not the monster was in the wrong or not. I don't know. But like, the bigger issue is like the purple crab. Because, like, they're on the island of the monsters, right? And we see them unintentionally open all the eggs of the orange walruses, right? And then Maisie throws the last baby orange walrus at the mama orange walrus. And then the walruses walk away. And you're like, oh, yay. I guess monsters are nice and don't care about humans. But then the purple crab just comes out of nowhere and is like, I'm going to eat you. And, like, make no mistake, he was 100% going to swallow Jacob and his little pirate dinghy whole. And he was not going to bother with it and stuff. And so I'm just like, wait, but that crab was definitely evil. No. To be fair, I mean, not evil, but hated humans at least. Yeah, maybe the crab had experienced some past problems with humans, and so it was like, I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to attack this thing right away. But they didn't show that and stuff, and like, it's still unclear. And then like, the only reason they survived was because Red fought back that monster. And it's like, that's a perfect solution to the end battle. Is like, instead of all the monsters being nice, it's like, there's plenty of nice monsters. That orange walrus is nice. This red bluster is nice. But that giant purple crab, he's a problem, and we got to stop him. And then they could have fought the giant purple crab. But we'll get into that at the end of the video. I'll talk about that later. Point is, not all the monsters are nice, and it just kind of bothers me. And the other bit of evidence, because I have a third as to why not all monsters could coexist with humans, is the fact that Jacob makes a meta joke. He talks about a sea beast that lays eggs in your face and then pops out of your chest. And obviously it's a reference to Alien, the movie. I get it. But, like, my thing is if this is true, if Jacob's telling the truth here, then how on earth are humans and sea monsters supposed to coexist with a sea monster like that? Like, how on earth can you possibly be like, oh yeah, I'm fine with living with this creature that may or may not plant eggs in my face and kill me? Like, that is not okay. That is not all right. Like, please no. And I get that it's a joke, and I get that it might be Jacob just telling a nonsensical story, a rumor that he's heard, just to scare Maisie. I get it, but, like, it still is indicative of maybe not all the sea monsters are as nice and upstanding as Red. And I'm a little bothered that they keep insisting that, oh no, all sea monsters are good, when the movie contradicts that message a number of times. But speaking of the sea creatures and their dubious innocence and friendliness with humans, I am left questioning why Red befriends these humans, Maisie and Jacob. Like, I get that Maisie asks a similar question, and, you know, she's like, Captain Crow was pointing a gun at us. And it's like, okay, but, like, why would Red care? If Red really is, like, blinded by the prejudice, shouldn't she just be like, humans killing humans, whatevs, and move on? But instead she chooses to, like, save them? Now, an argument could be made that Red saw them cut the lines and save her from Captain Crow, and so she's willing to befriend them. But, like, I feel like that was not shown enough in the movie or talked about either. So, I don't know. That's like, I feel like I'm filling in the movie for itself, and so don't love that. But on top of that, it's like, why does she, like, intuitively know that she can trust Maisie? You know, Red's just like, oh yeah, Maisie's fine, and I don't trust Jacob and stuff. I don't know. It was not very clear. I will say, on a positive note, I really liked the bond that these two formed, or these three formed. I really liked seeing Maisie trust Red and realize Red's good intentions. I really liked Maisie befriending Blue, her little tiny sea beast creature. I really liked Jacob. You know, at first he doesn't help Maisie remove the harpoons from Red's back, but then he decides to help. And seeing him slowly question his allegiance and, like, should I still try and kill monsters if they really aren't that bad? Like, that was all excellently handled, and I really want to commend the plot for doing such a good job with all of that. My problem is that I don't know why, like, Red decided to friend them in the first place. And we can say that, okay, well, Red just wasn't blinded by the prejudices just yet. She had always avoided humans really well or destroyed their ships really quickly, that she hadn't had a chance to, like, hate humans just yet. And, like, that's all good and well, but then why does she want to attack the Imperator so quickly? Like, she's just ready to just go in and kill them, and if it wasn't for Jacob and Maisie, like, she wouldn't have done that. And it's like, okay, if Red is really, like, the paragon of goodness for all the sea beasts, why is she so quick to attack here, besides, like, the plot demanding it? Anywho, it's a little contradictory. It's not a masterpiece of a movie, in my opinion. And the last question that I'm left wondering at the end of The Sea Beast is, what's up with the witch lady Gwen Batterbie? I guess she's not specifically speaking a witch. She doesn't actually use magic. She just develops poison and technology, so she's an artificer, you could say. But regardless of what you want to call her, what's up with her? Like, she's creepy, she's evil. Her sales pitch makes no sense. She tells Captain Crow, you should know everyone who's done dealings with me has come to regret it. And it's like, how does that get people to buy from you? What are you saying? But you know what? Sales pitch besides, I get it. She's supposed to be evil and creepy and show that Captain Crow is going to extreme lengths for his revenge and stuff. He says it's in the name of Jacob, but really we know he just hates Red and hates sea monsters. But I'm like, what is going on here and stuff? And then, worse still, like, he asks, what's it going to cost me? And then she goes, everything, Captain. It'll cost you everything. And then it ends, and it's like, wait. But that still doesn't leave me with knowing what it actually cost him. Like, does that mean his life is in servitude to you? Does that mean his boat and his crew now belong to you? Like, what does that mean? I do not understand. Like, please explain more. And it's not like it's even resolved at the end. Like, the last thing we see of Crow is that he throws down his sword in disgust, accepting, albeit reluctantly, that he can no longer be a hunter. The sea beasts really aren't evil, and he's frustrated, like, probably at himself, that he couldn't kill the beasts, that he doesn't get his revenge, that he was wrong, that generations of hunters have died for this. Like, probably frustrated a lot of things. I'm putting words in his mouth, but he throws down his sword in disgust. That's the last thing we see of him. And we never see the payment come due for Gwen Batterbie. So it's like, wait, what? What is going on here? Now, maybe there's a sequel in the works and we get to see the answer to some of these questions and stuff. Continue on. Maybe that sequel would help with the resolution of the film. It would show that the segregation of monsters and humans just doesn't work. Too many humans to explore. We need to find a way to coexist. That could all work, and that could be fun. And that could be a really good and exciting sequel. I don't think they're going to do that, but it's just an idea and stuff. But as it stands, even if there was a sequel in the works, that's not a good enough reason to just leave this plot thread completely unanswered. It's like, you're supposed to tell me, like, this movie's trying to convince me that this is a really bad thing, that he went and got the Hand of God harpoon weapon from this Gwen Batterbie, only for me to find out that at the end, it didn't really matter. It didn't really cost him. Now, an argument could be made that she's just, like, knowingly telling him, like, it's going to cost you everything. If you go through with this plan, you'll never get to be a hunter again and stuff. And so in that way, it did cost him everything. His entire identity is now just gone because he was all about being a hunter and hunting and doing that. And now that entire lifestyle, that entire career path is just gone. So it cost him everything. But I don't think that's what she meant. She's not a witch. Doesn't have foretelling of the future. She's just being ominous and creepy, and she's just a really good merchant and inventor. And so I'm just left questioning, like, why set up this plot line if you're not going to follow through? And it bothers me. Now, for all of these complaints that I have, I did really enjoy this movie. Like I said, I love pirates. This movie had pirates in spades. It was really, really cool and really, really well animated. Despite the cartoonish nature of the sea creatures, I don't care. It was exciting, it was fun, and it tells a really compelling story. I do like the characters of Jacob and Maisie. I do like their determination to change the world, their ousting of the corrupt royalty, their decision to help change humanity and make everyone's lives better. This is a good movie. I highly recommend you seeing it and enjoying it and stuff. And I'll tell people, I love The Sea Beast. It's a great film, but it's just not quite perfect. It's not a masterpiece. And I guess that's the thing I really want to say is it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It's okay that not every scene builds on itself, that not every scene, ties into the themes and overall messaging of the movie. I wish it could do that a little bit better. I wish it could address some of the issues I have with it, but it's okay. As it stands, it's a really good movie. And it's a movie that if I was a kid, I would absolutely love because it would show pirates in a very exciting and family-friendly and fun way. And I love that about The Sea Beast.